seen nobody like this. You ain't seen nobody like this. You hear my sound all over town singing. Whoa. You ain't seen nobody like this. You ain't seen nobody like this. You hear my sound all over town singing. Whoa. I think there's something in the water. If you wanna take a sip, but be careful what you wish for. The faint of heart can't handle it. Everybody wants a piece of someone else's prize, but it ain't free, it don't come cheap. Only the strongest will survive. You ain't seen nobody like this.
Good evening, SA Soccer Roundtable fans. My name is Harry. Joining me tonight is Rafa. Welcome back here. Hopefully everything's okay with you and your family. And, like I said here, glad to have you back here and hopefully give you a little bit of reason to talk a little bit about soccer here. How are you doing this evening?
Good. So, a couple of days back in town. It was good to hang out with you guys last night at the game to kind of get away from things. It's been a rough 3 weeks, and which I'll discuss hopefully later on, and just kind of say what's been going down and so forth. But it was exciting to come back to a win. That was probably the sweet part. So to be back and watch our team knock off the top team,
in the league.
Yep. And that was a little bitter. It was sweet. So that was icing on the cake.
So, for me, sorry, my voice is probably a little bit raspy here. So, do apologize about that. Been a long weekend with AJ's first tournaments this weekend here with surf, and the game last night, and just busy stuff here. So. But let's get started here. Also want to say congratulations to Oklahoma City Energy, who just knocked off RGV. So thank you for that here down in the valley. You're starting to sink down where I thought you'd be for that here. But season series split, but for that here. So starting out with the UTSA women, because high school soccer is just around the corner for you. College soccer's up and running now, and I'm gonna have to start focusing on it a little bit more. But the one team that I do focus on quite a bit, that I follow probably the closest here, is the UTSA Roadrunners, playing some women's soccer this weekend. This week they had two matches. The first one was against California Baptist University. They won 3-0, 3 goals in the first half. Anna Suter had two, one at the 3 minutes 20 seconds, 3 minutes and 20 seconds. Ellis Patterson got the second goal at 13:55, and 20:32, minute 20:32. Anna Suter got her second goal here. So at the time that put UTSA at 2-1 on the year here. But to me, the bigger one that they came back here with was actually on Saturday, or just today here, where they played a very good Grand Canyon out of the WAC, one of their top teams, one that typically will contend for a NCAA tournament run, for women's soccer. They beat them 2-1 here. It looked like here it was a very close game, till about the 60th minute when Issa Hernandez scored. Looks like here on a penalty. 62nd minute, Serena Russ got the game-winning goal, and then Grand Canyon University did pull one back in the 85th minute for that here. If you get the opportunity, please go out to Park West Athletic Complex. It's a beautiful facility to be able to visit. This upcoming week here, they do play two on the road. On Wednesday, they go to Texas A&M Corpus Christi, which is coming off a road loss against UTRGV 2-0. They are 1-1 on the year. But then the next Sunday here, which will be on ESPN Plus, so we will probably be doing a show during it. So I'll probably have it on against at Texas Tech in Lubbock. Texas Tech is 2-0-1. Only tie was against San Diego on the road. So they'll probably have their hands full playing. Was it the Big? I think they play the Big 10 or Big 12? Pardon me. For that here, and their only loss this year is to Oklahoma State, still in Stillwater here. So, any thoughts on UTSA soccer? I'm not sure if you're familiar with Texas A&M Corpus Christi. Any thoughts on their upcoming matches here, Rafa?
Kudos to UTSA. It's a good start for them. I know the last few years they've had some rough starts, some slow starts, but you can tell that this group is really on it. They're focused. Tough loss to Oklahoma State. But yeah,
First game of the year, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good caliber team. Not big to lose a quality team like that. And I think going into the Corpus game, they should be favored to win that game. So I think they'll come out with a win. And then we'll see when they go to Lubbock. If they can keep up with Oklahoma State, I don't see why not. They can't come back with a win against the Red Raiders, on Sunday. So two winnable games for them before they have their little homestand coming up the following week.
To me, like I said, excuse me, I do think the A&M Corpus Christi one is one that they should win for that here, because I do think they are a better program. Going against Texas Tech, going against a larger university along those lines here on the road, to me, would it be awesome if they got the win? Yes. But Coach Pittman's got this team headed in the right direction. To me, if they came back with a close loss, even if it's let's say 2-0 like they lost to Oklahoma State, I think before they head into Conference USA playing that top level of competition is what's key to help get them ready for league play, and that's why I'm excited to see. Once again, like I said here, if you have the opportunity, because the following week, the September 10th, 11th, they do have the Drury Invitational at Park West, so you'll have some home matches to be able to go see. If AJ hadn't had to have a match during the window that UTSA, and I probably would have went out and caught it this afternoon here, because Grand Canyon University is a pretty good program for basically the size that UTSA is as well. So we will go into a little bit more when it comes to Trinity. I did talk to Jacob, as we waited out the rainstorm getting into Toyota Field this weekend. So we may see if we can bring him on to talk a little bit about Trinity upcoming season for both the men's and the women's. I know the women's schedule was released. I hadn't seen the men's, but it looks like, speaking with him, it may have been released here. And then St. Mary's, Incarnate Word also have solid programs that we'll need to start keeping up and giving through there. And any other programs that we need to be on the lookout for locally here?
Actually, Upstart, Texas A&M San Antonio. They're one of our conference rivals from UHV. So, and like I said, UHV for the men's we're the defending conference champs. So we'll take care of them this year. But it's a good.
I don't know if we can talk about your school's program, but with you on here, I'm sure we can probably bend the rules a little bit.
But like I said, good luck. Like I said, good luck to the A&M San Antonio. Like I said, first year starting. I think they were supposed to start last year because of COVID. They couldn't. So this year, I know they're starting the men's and the women's program. So they're in the Red River Conference. Like I said, with UHV, Houston Tillotson, a couple Louisiana schools. So it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be a challenge for them because they're a new program. They have lots of freshman players. A couple transfers with some experience, but it's going to take a while. And it was the same thing happened to they're at UHE with us. It's going to take a while, but like I said, I'm sure they're going to be a pretty good program in the next few years.
And if that's just the women's or both women's and men's?
Both men's and women's.
Both men's and women's. All right.
Yeah, they're part of the NEI.
Okay. So moving on, there's at this point here, high schools, a couple of teams are starting to submit pictures out of the teams getting together, but high school soccer hasn't kicked off yet. But with Rafa on here, with was it Coach Kano, we will be highly involved with high school soccers around here coming up here. But moving to kind of USL news, not really a whole lot this week. There's a lot of player transactions, but I don't want to get bogged down. We talked a little bit of last week about the transactions that San Antonio did. Now, I'll just ask you kind of high level here, your thoughts on not with how they played this weekend, but just thoughts on the moves coming in with Courtney Ford being loaned in from the Rapids and his great story, and then the trade, and I know it's a loan and loan, but the trade with Emil Coelho going to Sac Republic and coming back to San Antonio, Mitchell Tanner. Your thoughts on that, Rafa?
Well, the Ford signing, I think it's going to pay dividends, especially some of the questions that we saw on Twitter, Speedwise, which we'll get into. Watching him play last night, you can tell he was just on it. He was eager to play. I think he's got a chip on his shoulder, so he's got something to prove, and I'm glad that we have him. As far as the Quail trade, I was a little surprised about that, but kind of looking at it, with PC back, and also the play of Abu, it kind of made Quail a little expendable to a certain point, because like I said, we also have Lindley in the middle, so we're pretty much set there. And like I said, Quail was kind of a little inconsistent. He did have a good game against against the Bulls, before there in Austin, the one we went to go see.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we expected a lot more from him when he signed, but he just hasn't really. Not saying he hasn't panned out, he just hasn't been consistent. So maybe a little change of scenery probably help out. Hopefully, it doesn't come back to haunt us when we go play Sacramento when they play us, or if you see them in the playoffs. But I think getting Tanner back, I think that helped too. I think there were some issues on our defense as far as consistent play, and what we saw last night was, I think it's going to pay off. But like I said, we added some depth there too, because you're gonna need added depth going into this stretch, especially with the whole situation with COVID being off 20 days.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna need that depth to really, get it in gear and get some key wins, especially on the road coming up. So they'll get that push. I don't know. We're gonna catch up to El Paso, but if we can get that second slot, at least securing the second slot to at least get a home game, that'd be great. And then we'll see what happens if maybe the injury bugs start to hit El Paso soon, and those starts to slip.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's catching El Paso, and it's kind of the same with Phoenix, and I'll get to the standings here in a minute. I think El Paso took San Antonio's best shot last night and was very close to walking away with the tie, which I think would have been a fair result, because I think both teams of quality, both teams played well. There's a couple of calls probably on, each team probably felt a little bit wronged by a little bit here, but I thought I just think El Paso is, we're 20 some games in, for on average for most teams. When they're not starting Diego Luna, that tells you the depth that they got, because Diego Luna has killed us the last two games, and he didn't start. So it'll be interesting for me to hear what Seriously Loco says about that, just because I thought he is a key against San Antonio with what he brings, and with Coach Lowry having him come off the bench, to me was a plus for San Antonio here. But before we get too much into that here, let's go in over where we're at standing wise here. Right here, this right here. So looking out to the Atlantic here, Tampa Bay Rowdies, first place, technically tied with the Riverhounds, but Rowdies have the advantage, plus the Riverhounds have played 2 more games at 40 points. Barring some major upset, Miami FC is going to get up to 37 points with 21 games played. So there's really a 3-horse race right there. As the Fighting Billy Forbes are making a run on that here. So for that here, Charleston Battery, Independence, Hartford are in that, to me, in that dogfight for the last last playoff spot in the Atlantic. For that here, Red Bulls and Loudoun United. Thank you for coming. San Antonio will travel to Red Bulls again. If you look at the goal difference here, they're now at a -19, allowed 43 goals for that here. And I know, it'll be an away match. But I do expect, if San Antonio doesn't win that one there and score multiple goals, then I think there's a little bit of reason to be concerned about. Yeah. Moving into the Central, Birmingham Legion actually beat Louisville City. However, so it kind of tightened that up a little bit. Louisville City's still in first place, 40 points. Birmingham Legion at second with 36. Then there's a gap to Tulsa, which is at 31 points. Indy 11, Oklahoma City, Atlanta United 2, and you probably still have to toss in Memphis 901 for that fourth slot here. San Antonio is going to be playing Memphis and Oklahoma City and Tulsa in the remaining schedule here. So San Antonio could have a voice to say on who's going to be making the playoffs in the Central, and especially against Oklahoma City and Memphis along those lines here. So, and unfortunately, Sporting Kansas City are like Loudoun United. Thank you for participating for that here. In the Mountain, as we discussed, El Paso Locomotive, 41 points, 19 games played, 12-2-5 on the year. 2 losses are to RGV and San Antonio, both away. So South Texas, South Central Texas, if you want to argue San Antonio's not in South Texas if you're an RGV fan, but that's on you. There's 17 goal difference, 31-14 goals allowed. I believe this is the first time that they allowed multiple goals, if memory serves me correct, listening to Seriously Loco on there here. So kudos to San Antonio to being able to break that barrier. Switchbacks offensively, they're very tough to beat. That's who San Antonio plays in the last match of the year. So that could be very interesting when it comes to the seating here. And I don't think these are right here. Hold on 1 minute here. Let me just double check for that here, because I did these here and I got sidetracked. I don't remember if it was on this screen here.
We do have that tiebreaker over RGV, right? Because of the
we have. Well, actually, no. The tiebreaker between RGV and San Antonio will come down to who has the most points in the Mountain Division. So we don't own the rights outright on, for them at this point here. So that's the interesting thing when it comes to RGV San Antonio is on that here. 32. Yeah. So Colorado Springs is actually at 32 points. RGV Toros is at 29. San Antonio's at 27. The Bulls at 26. So, yeah, the only one I didn't update was the switchbacks here. I missed that one. I apologize. So Locomotive, to me, has got a clear gap. They got a 9-point gap over the switchbacks, and 12 points over RGV, 14 points over us. I think the Bold, just because they've been unfortunately letting everybody go that, offensively that had any talent, with the exception of Omar Gordon for that here and a couple of others. You're starting to see them slide back a little bit more in the defense, not being able to hold up under the pressure that they've had. New Mexico United is the one that kind of puzzles me a little bit. 20 games played, 25 points, 6 wins, 7 losses, 7 draws, 24-24. Last, they had tied 5 matches in a row. They finally lost to Phoenix in a match that they were up most, and then Calistri got 2 goals late in the second half to give New Mexico United the loss. And then Wednesday's opponent, Real Monarchs. They're starting to string a few results together here and there. But the talent that they've had, unfortunately, is just not what it was as last year. And then out west to the Pacific, Phoenix Rising, just like with El Paso, the two class, and when we come class of the Pacific at 41 points. Loyal with Landon Donovan's found some more coins in the couch to be able to bring in some new weapons. I think you're going to see them starting to pull away in that second position. Orange County, with 30 points, in third place. To me, the fourth slot, thanks to Tacoma Defiance, is pretty good. It'll be interesting if Sac Republic can kind of figure things out. They're a little bit kind of like New Mexico, probably a little bit underperforming. LA Galaxy at 22. Oakland Roots won 5 or have gotten points in the last 5 matches for it here, so they've kind of woke up and responded. Chuy Enriquez was former San Antonio, former RGV player, former Reno, is doing some great work out there. And then the Lights, they're Vegas is Vegas. We'll leave it at that.
The Lights are going out there.
Lights are going out. But looking at the supporter shield, it's kind of interesting. It's a very, top 5: El Paso, Phoenix out west. However, right below them, Louisville, Tampa, and Pittsburgh. So for the supporter shield, most points, it's a dog race. There's 5 teams here that have it, that are in it right now. We see Pittsburgh coming up next Saturday night here in Toyota Field, so that'll be interesting. And then on the wooden spoon, Loudoun at 10 points, Red Bulls at 13, Sporting Kansas City 16, Real Monarch at 16, and then the Lights at 17 points. So if you notice, San Antonio plays the Red Bulls and Real Monarchs. We get the Real Monarchs twice here, and we've yet to beat Real Monarchs. Out of their 16 points, we've got 2 draws. I do think that the Nathan red card back in that second match impacted that a little bit here. Any thoughts on the standings that stick out to you from where San Antonio is? Any teams that kind of surprise you still? Because we are, let's be honest, we're fast approaching the end of the season.
I think for us, it depends. Some teams peaked at the wrong time. Like RGV was a perfect example. I know there's a couple of the East Coast teams too. I think they're peaking, and now they're starting to slide. And I think for us, I don't think we've hit our peak just yet. And maybe from this game that we just played could be the start of something. Being off 20 games, I think that helped our team. I think we're really kind of wounded, battered around. So that rest really helped, kind of re-energize the team. It kind of affected some that need to drink a little more pickle juice or some Pedialyte. But it's gonna come. I think for us, we need to make sure just keep on winning at home, stealing points on the road, and then winning the games that we're supposed to win, especially some of against those wooden spoon teams. At least if we can get into that second slot, to host a playoff game, that'd be great. So we just gotta remain consistent on that. A little surprise the Phoenix Rising losing to Oakland Roots. That was a little surprise there that.
Yeah, but they came back and responded against New Mexico, and Phoenix. Yeah. Phoenix is one of those kind of funny teams where they'll hit a little bit of a slide and then it'll turn back on. So,
that's another team in New Mexico. They were kind of I don't know. And have you noticed on the kind of like, they've been bringing in players, to help try to salvage something to at least make the playoffs. But I don't know if those signings are even going to help them. They've really, ever since they've played us, they haven't really been the same.
So I speak, with and I follow Somos, was it Somos Mas, the podcast, and then also Chris Walker with Seek and Strike. To me, the problem with New Mexico is they don't have any speed up top. They got Sandoval, which is he's a good player, but he's getting a little bit longer, in the tooth here. He was never a quick player. The player that was going to break the internet, Brian Brown, they ended up switching him over to Oakland Roots. And they brought back one of the former players. So it seems like they're trying to bring back players that have played in their system the last couple of years. So, it'll be interesting to see what, the New Mexico podcast and insiders, feel, for here. To me, it almost, for New Mexico United, almost seems like a Darren Powell situation for them, where they've got, it's their first coach. He's done well, but the results aren't coming in. And as a San Antonio fan, hey, I'm excited that that they're getting ties instead of wins, and against Phoenix, I give both of them, I banter with both of them, so it's kind of a no-win situation for me. If New Mexico would have beat Phoenix, I'd have been talking shit to the Phoenix fans. If Phoenix beat New Mexico, talking shit to New Mexico fans. So for me, it didn't really matter. But with New Mexico being in the mountain, hey, a loss for them, helps us out here. So moving on to El Paso and the actual match here. Royce nailed the formation for it here. The lineup was a little bit different, because he had Axel, Doyle, and Ford. And the lineup was actually Ford, which he got right, but it was Kamiri and it was Tainter. So your thoughts, on the back line, and then of course in the middle they had Maloney, Lindley, PC was back, and then Lima. Up top you had Epps, Nathan, and Jose. So your thoughts on the initial line, and of course Matt Cardoni in goal, and that goes without question for that here. But your thoughts on the new formation and how it looked.
Well, that 3-4-3 is what we played last year.
Correct.
So Tanner was comfortable playing in that. He's been in that position before. I was a little surprised he was going to start, but I guess like you mentioned, he's a lone player. He's probably going to end up playing. So him and Ford were a little surprised, and then Kamiri was the kind of like, he hadn't been in the lineup for a few games, but he was the right choice to start there. And I think out of the three guys that we had last night back there are probably our most athletic defenders. And when I mean athletic, that means they have speed, they have strength, they can do it all. Axel, like I say, he has the height, he's got the touch, but he doesn't have the speed. Varela, he's physical, but doesn't have the speed. Same thing with Doyle. Doyle's physical, but he doesn't have the speed. And maybe that's the reason why they went to a fast defense to shut down. And basically, like I said, El Paso is fast up top.
Mm-hmm.
With Luna and with Sebastian
and Sebastian had a good game. I'll give it up to Sebastian. And he's the one that had the shortest guy, in the middle gets the goal. It's still kind of a little bit baffling, but to me, so I thought Ford and I thought Tainer were both going to start. I really did. The question was who was going to be the quarterback. And all year long we had seen if Axel's been healthy, he's been in that role, and you understand why, because of his leadership, his skills, the hype that he brings. But the one thing he doesn't do, and it's this kind of the same thing with Doyle, is if they're going against a team with speed, they get beat, and I think that's one of the few things that we've kind of seen a little bit, since Doyle's return from his injury, is if Ariel is great, set pieces, he's good, and in my opinion, he's captain material. He's got that leadership, that quarterback, ability on the back line. I was excited to see Jasser there. And I gave him my man of the match, and I know Epps was probably the man of the match, on the offensive side. But to me, I think Jasser coming in, the communication that he had with the other two, and he matched Solinag's size for size, speed for speed, and as we've seen with Lucho, he's a hell of a player. And to me, Jasser kind of made him, took him out of the play, took him out of the match.
He totally shut him down. He was really, Lucho was non-existent. I think maybe he had one or two plays, but I don't know if he even got a shot off. I think he might have been, like I said, Kamari might have limited him, but maybe
he had one shot. He had one shot. 16 accurate pass, 62%. His one shot was off target. He had 36 touches, for the entire match for it here. He won two duels, lost 3 duels. So, and that's where, to me, on the other side, because according to FOTMob, they run a 4-3-1-2 with Solinag and Dylan Mayers up top, with Seba right behind them. Then midfield, you got Brian Rebellion, Richie Ryan, Nick Ross, and then the back line, Fox, Yuma, Michek Jerome, and Malcolm King. But to me, up top, Dylan, number 10, Dylan Mayers, he had 3 shots, 2 off target, along those lines here. But I didn't think they're, and it's kudos to the defense, and not only the back 3, but the midfield as well, with with Lindley, PC, and Abu coming in. To me, they kind of clogged up and prevented a lot of what El Paso wanted to do, in my opinion.
Yeah, I know with Lucho, like for the other 2 games, he was really involved, setting up a lot of the goals. So, feeding him the ball is important, because, like I said, he's a kind of turn and shoot type of person, or feed the ball to somebody. He could not do that. I mean, Kamari just basically was on him, like kind of like gums, just stuck to him and just frustrated him, and you can tell that was really affecting the way El Paso's attack. They just couldn't really get into, and that's the thing, we didn't get to help them get in a rhythm.
Right.
When they get in the rhythm, they're on it, and they were frustrated the whole night. Even though we gave up that one goal, that's I think that was kind of a lucky one, but you can tell they were very frustrated. Just trying, they were forcing balls. They did some things that they didn't do the last 2 games, and which, like I say, kudos to our defense. And then also having PC in there, even for the first half, he set the tone for the game.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of did a lot of managing around. He got that yellow card, his usual yellow card, but that's just him telling everybody, "Hey, I'm here. I'm in control. I'm gonna run things here, and we're gonna do it our way."
But that yellow card was a statement, and I know Royce and you and I sat together last night, and up to that point, the ref I don't want to say he was losing control, but it was starting to get a little bit more chippier.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think PC knew he was coming out at half. I do think that was planned, because he's coming back. They want to kind of limit. He did, or in the first half, kind of go down. He was able to continue. And, the yellow that he got was well earned, but I think it sent a message to not only to El Paso, but also to, to the referee saying, we're not going to take this. So you're either, and to me, the ref, I'm not saying that affected his. Well, I guess I am saying, I think it affected how he called the rest of the game, because after he only handed out 3 yellows, and 2 of them were very late, and I think you could tell the game was starting to get a little chippy along those lines, and but with that yellow, with that hard foul, to me that number one, it made a statement. Number two, I think it woke the ref up in the middle to where I've got to have a little bit better control, or this will get out of hand.
Well, especially those 2 missed obvious fouls in the box in that first half. And I think there's even one play, the kind of the El Paso's kind of trying to get the referee's influence on that 4th ref. I think I don't know try to get one of our players a yellow card, and he didn't see the play, so tough luck. Yeah, I think the ref could have been a little bit more consistent, but I think he did allow some play. But I know you mentioned that he had like 30-something cards in 6 games, so I kind of expected maybe 4 or 5 cards this game, but to have just 3, besides at the end,
Yeah, at the end, like I said, I couldn't get any confirmation, of the cards that were handed out, especially for Yuma to see if he actually ended up getting one, because he should have at least got a yellow. I think it should borderline red, but it's do you give a red at the end of the game for what he was doing?
And then he finally gave a call to foul on Luna, because Luna, when he got subbed in, there's a comment there about him being non-existent. He did come in. He did have his presence. You can tell there was a little period that he was really influencing that attack, but we were able to kind of to contain him. Abu was able to kind of contain him a little bit, that he didn't hurt us like he did on the last 2 games. So that's kudos to like our guys back there, because he does draw a lot of attention. And one of the things I mentioned to you, like when he comes in, we had to keep the ball away from his feet.
Mm-hmm.
If Luna doesn't touch the ball, El Paso's not going to win. If we can just keep, I think when we play them again, I think Marcina needs to kind of more like he's going to start. We need to find a way to neutralize him right away and just keep him from touching the ball. And then I think the one guy that's going to probably pester him a lot, that's going to get under his skin, is going to be PC. And I think if PC speaks to him, and you know how PC is, I think with Luna being young and inexperienced, PC is going to get under his skin and hope maybe ends up getting Luna a yellow or a red, which is possible.
Yeah, I think because Luna already picked up a cheap red card for it here with the elbow to
New Mexico, right?
Against New Mexico, along those lines here. So I do think that the team will talk to him and say, "Hey, you can't lose your cool like that, because you impact the team." And I've kind of got into it with the El Paso fan base, on whether Luna's clean or dirty. And he's not Yuma level by any means. Don't get me wrong, but the path he's on leads you down to.
But the perfect person to instigate him is going to be PC.
Yep.
And like I said, the next game against them, well, even Abu too, because he's got the experience too. I think he can also get under his skin, because the one thing is we just need to get kind of get him frustrated, not let him touch the ball, anything like that, and that will affect his game just because he's a great player. He's young, but he does not have the experience or the cool like some of the guys we have, or even some of the maybe like Sebastian Vasquez, who's been there. He can keep his cool, but if he loses his cool,
Seba can get the blood pumping. We'll just say as well.
yeah.
But
But
he's been around. He knows he's got that experience, which is what you're talking about here.
Yeah. So that's something that I think when we're playing them again, if we can kind of put our guy on him, and that we can say we can get another 3 points over there.
So SA Mexican is sent a tweet out, and I submitted it to Royce, and unfortunately for Royce, he had unfortunately a last minute soccer meeting for Rex. So family comes first, so that impacted his ability to be on the show tonight. And then Rex has school in the morning, so they're trying to get him on a new bedtime. So, but the SA Mexican on Twitter here, says, does Allen continue to go with our quickest CBs, or does it depend on our opponent? They did a damn good job. Royce, initial response was speed kills, probably same CB setup. Kamari shut down everything. Oli beat on a breakdown and a set piece. Also, when one center back went wide or forward, the others tucked in and maintained a two back that helped overload the wings. So, your thoughts on what Royce comment was, and on the question yourself?
Well, speed does kill, and having a fast defense allows you to recover. And I think that's what Coach Marcina kind of looked at the tapes of the last two games against El Paso. Their speed was hurting us, and our defenders just really couldn't recover on certain attacks. So I think we picked the right three guys that not only are physical, but they're, like I said, they can recover to get the ball back, and defend. So I would stick to this lineup, depending, like I said, on injuries, or maybe if you do want to rest up. Let's say, if we're going up against Red Bulls, maybe you can sacrifice one or two players, and you can put Dole in, or you can put Varela or Axel. That's fine. But if you're gonna go, you want to put your speed players back there. It's just gonna make things a lot smoother. I'm sure Cardone enjoys that because he can get the ball quicker out to those guys and get it up the field fast. So, like I said, it's gonna, like I said, sometimes it's always gonna depend on the matchup. But I stick to this lineup. But if we're playing some of the wooden spoon teams, you can kind of toy with it just a little bit.
His second question was, does Dylan continue to come off the bench? I think he does.
Yeah.
I don't think there's really much discussion with that here. However, let's take a look at what Mr. Dylan was able to do at the end of the match here. This is already after he had split the defender and then went through the defense to get the goal there. Your thoughts on how he was able to, and that was courtesy. Before I get too far, that was courtesy of SAFC Twitter on one of the posts that they posted at 3:00 here this afternoon. Well, your thoughts on Dylan's goal?
Well, kudos to your player of the game, Kamari, with that pass. Without his assist, he would have never gone. And then you watch the replay; he beats Dylan beats four guys.
Easy to get 4 to 5 guys, yeah.
So, and I think a lot had to do. I think the weather took a toll on El Paso because they're used to that dry heat. They're not. It was after the rain. It was so humid. People were cramping up, and I think, Dylan coming in a little bit fresh. He still had, gas in the tank, and you can tell those guys from El Paso just had lost a step a little bit, and he was able to take advantage of that and get that winner right before the final whistle. So um, I think you continue on with him coming off the bench. Maybe you can start him against Ribbles. You can sit down Nathan. That game. Give him a rest. The other wild card, like I said, when Patino comes back, now you have a problem there. Which one, who you go with, or so forth. But yeah, moving forward, like I said, Dylan's a good change of pace off the bench. He's played well. Because he has that height, he has got that strength. Plus, I guess he showed speed too on that play. So just like I said, keep the things kind of the same until that little rough stretch. You probably do have to play with a little bit of the lineup up front to give some guys some rest.
Yeah, Matt said he split 2 and then shot through 5 and through the goalie. So like I said here, I'll be interested to. I think it's one of the few times that the El Paso defense, made an error and leaked a goal that I'm sure they probably feel that they should have stopped for here. Now, it's nothing to take away with what Dylan did, but when he split the 2 defenders initially here and then kind of cut through and I forget who put a picture out there, but there was 7 El Paso players, not including the goalie, and just Dylan in the frame. And I think that speaks volume of just kind of how impressive that goal was, which is about 45 seconds before the 3 minutes of extra time was going to be there. So your thoughts on the overall game? I know Royce wanted to point out the difference between this game and the game in El Paso on the four-layer here was SAFC's ability to not only get shots but quality shots, and they were on frame. Or the last, like on this one here, they had 15 shots, 8 on target. Along with, they had 5 shots off target and 2 that were blocked. El Paso had 11 shots, 4 on target, 5 off and 2 blocked here. We were off the woodwork. Once I think it was Lima's shot that if that would have went in, that would have been goal of the week. In my opinion. And then 9 and 6 as far as shots inside and shots outside, because that was my biggest complaint earlier in the year, is they were trying to put everything in, and then there was a couple of times where they who was it that took a long shot out, Maloney. And we're like, oh, we didn't know we had it in. So, yeah. And it wasn't far off. I think it ended up going above the goal. But, to me, I think that kind of opened them up a little bit more inside.
What I like to see a little bit more, I know we bring the balls down the wing and, a little bit more crosses. But if we do bring that ball back up to the 18, I like to see that shot just from outside the box, just try to get it to the opposite corner of the post. I've seen like highlights of Epps scoring a goal like that. I think also Gallegos has a leg for that too. One thing I do want to see Gallegos shoot with his left foot. I think he's trying to get comfortable with that right-footed shot, and when he does that, he loses that little time frame to get that shot off. He's got to trust himself and hit that shot with the left, and that's maybe he needs to work a little bit. But there are periods of when we're out on the attack, we lose out opportunities just because we take an extra touch. So those are some of the things I think we can improve on, and it's just going to make things better. But I think the one thing that did make us the big difference was having our field general out there, was having PC out
in the first half.
And then I know he came out. We didn't miss a beat with Abu, so yeah, that's a good compliment there. I know there was another question with Guido's injury. I think what you can do, here's something maybe in the kind of tone that you could put Lima on the outside.
Like they started the game out with,
and you can have Lindley, PC, and Abu, all 3 of them. I think those 3 there in the middle will cause a lot of problems. And and especially when you got two guys that can really pass the balls, especially the crosses that Abu does from one side to the other. I would like to see a lineup with PC and him at the same time. I think that would give teams fits, and then also I think that would free up also PC too to make also take shots from the outside as well too. So, I know we're gonna miss Glito on that. Hopefully it's not too serious, but we could put Lima out, and then I think we still have some depth on the midfield. I know there are some players that were not on the roster, but I think we can still plug those in later on in future games.
And I do want to give a shout out to the Gleedle family. I was able to actually meet them. Miss Gleedle, came to the match and as well as Mr. Gleedle and met her brother. Met Sam's brother at the stadium. So thank you for making the trip from Phoenix and supporting Sam. Like I said here, it was very cool to be able to meet you and like I said here, I know AJ was excited for that here. So. One question that I have, and this might, hopefully, this doesn't create too much of a hot topic. Jose Gallegos, Fought Mob. He was the highest rated player according to the match. However, during the match, I didn't feel that, and in his role, he did have an assist. For it here, but he only took one shot and it was blocked. And I know you've kind of mentioned him a little bit more about trying to, develop. I think he's developed the right foot or left foot. I forget which foot that you were talking about. To me, for him to be able to take that next step, to me, he's got to pull the trigger a little bit more. If he's going to be out on the wings, like he had the one shot. Epps had 6 shots, with 1 goal. Nathan had, Nathan only had 1 shot, for that here, which was kind of a little bit, his was on target.
Yeah.
Do you think it was just more tonight was Epps' night, just on how the offense was running and maybe how, and some of this has to go to El Paso's defense as well. Don't get me wrong.
But you know what Epps did? I think with Nathan and I think Jose kind of lacked. Epps really worked the field, but he played without the ball to create space, and especially that goal he scored. That play was set up with him getting to space, and that's something that I want to see Nathan and Gallegos.
I think Nathan's done that pretty well this year.
He's done that, but I think he could have done a little bit more because he knew, just because they got a good defense. Paso's got a good defense, so you really got to work them, and that I think that's what Epps kind of realized that. So you know what, I need to work these guys, and make them come after me, and it paid off because he got that goal. But if you notice towards the end, and maybe that's the reason why, like I said, the reason why. Dylan got that goal is because we wore that defense out, and you have to, and that's something I would tell my players, you got to play everything, you got to play full speed, you got to play to the space, even if you don't get the ball, make that defense work, because eventually they're gonna have to make a decision, they're gonna leave you alone or so forth, but you wear them out during the game. It's gonna free up. It's gonna open more stuff, more space for you, and I think that's what Epps really did well. I like to see Jose, because there's a couple runs that Jose should have made, especially down the line. If that ball's passed down the line, he could have gotten some crosses in, or some cutbacks to take more shots. So I like to see him do that. I think also Nathan needs to, going against that defense, he needed to really kind of work a little bit harder for that, just to keep that defense honest, because they did kind of shut him down a bit. Not shut him down, they contained him, but just working that, you make that defense work, make them earn their paycheck, and that's what we need to start doing. But like I said, I gave kudos to Epps for that, because he came in with that mindset that, like, I'm gonna make these guys work. whether I get a shot off or not, I'm gonna find a way to kind of put a dent on their defense.
So so we'll wrap up final thoughts here, and then we'll transition to kind of a preview here for Real Monarchs and then Pittsburgh. Maybe I might see if towards the end of the week, if maybe we can get some guy, maybe Mike on from Mongols, who does the Pittsburgh podcast here, to see if maybe he can kind of come on and talk a little bit about the River Hounds and their season here to kind of preview them. Real Monarchs, as we went through or let me give you the final thoughts before I transition, because I said I was going to do that here. What's your final thoughts on the El Paso match?
Like I said, it was a quality win. It was a must win. We ended their 10-game unbeaten streak, which was great. We're only one of two teams that have beaten them all season long, but it's a good confidence booster for us, but also for the two new guys that came in. Ford and Tainer. They really stepped. For them being that first game, they really stepped it up. And who's to say this game doesn't get us? This is the game that gets us to and start peaking. Get us on a roll, and that's what I think. That's what we need to start. It's not how you start; it's how you finish. And this is the game that I think that maybe we might look back at. Hey, this is the one that started everything for us and got us rolling.
And I have to make a correction here, because earlier in the show I said I thought this was the first time that somebody had scored more than 2 goals against El Paso. The only other time that they allowed 2 goals or more was against RGV, which they lost. They lost that one 3-2, and they lost this one here 2-1. So the 2 matches that they've allowed more than 1 goal in, they have lost. Now, to be fair, both of them were away here. My final thoughts on the El Paso match is, in Toyota Field, it's a very even match. The question that I have will come October 4th, when San Antonio, it's a Monday match of all things, is can they match the intensity in El Paso? So far this year, they haven't. It's only been 1 game, and then I think they went over there last year as well. They did not. Now, 2 years ago, they did win the first time there. So they have it in their history to be able to win in El Paso, but the last couple of years they haven't been able to prove it, and so that'll be an interesting aspect to see. So playing Real Monarchs, just kind of looking at head to head, it's 5 wins for us, 1 win for them, 3 draws. San Antonio typically does very well against Real Monarchs. However, this year I think it has to be a little bit disappointing. They were up 1-0, got the red card with Nathan, ended up getting a second goal. And then right after the half here at Toyota Field, on May 8th, they allowed the 2 goals back to back. I think it was in a 10-minute span. And then June 26th, when we were kind of in a little bit of funk, dealing with the injuries, traveled to a 1-1 draw up in Real, up in Salt Lake City, where Real Monarchs are. So we get Real Monarchs twice in the next 10 days. The first here, September 1st, here in Toyota Field, and then on the 11th going to Zions Bank Stadium here. Your thoughts on this makeup game? This is a game that was supposed to have been played 2 weeks ago, 2 Saturdays ago, but unfortunately was canceled out due to COVID here. Your thoughts on the upcoming match against the Monarchs?
Like I said, this is another must win for us. I think there is gonna be a lineup change, and the reason that is because of the Pittsburgh game. I think I see Dylan starting this game. I think we'll save Nathan. Maybe coming in at the hat. Maybe towards the end of the game. We'll see maybe Varela in this game. For sure, I think we probably sit out PC this game. I'd rather save him, or if
Uh,
not,
I
or
think he plays a
unless
half again, just because you got to
unless
build up
you're
that
yeah,
fitness.
unless you're having him to play, like you mentioned, maybe to get him game shape, and then yeah, you play him a half. But I would probably play him in the second half. You know, I think Abu starts this one. Um, so you'll probably see a couple, maybe three or four changes, just to because they know they have a big game coming up. And that's another thing. We can't look past this game to Saturday, and and
That's
and that's something that Marcina needs to make sure that the kind of emphasis. These 3 points are not given. We got because we haven't beaten them yet. We need to win these three. We got to win this game to get the 3 points. So that way we can focus on Pittsburgh.
and they
So
are a talented team. Let's I know their record doesn't show it, but this is an MLS 2 team that typically has good quality. Now
mm,
they are going through a transition. There's no question about that. They're not the Real Monarchs of years past, but I do think that, and they did trade to me one of their better or the loaned, or I guess Real Salt Lake's loaned them out, Douglas Martinez, to to um, to San Diego, but it's it's one that like you said, you can't overlook. But yet, this is a game that you could probably have a little bit more rotation roster wise. But I also think we kind of saw this in the second half, where because they hadn't played in 20 days, the legs weren't there as much as normally would see at this time of year. Just
mhm.
because they had 20 days off. 20 days off. Some of that was probably in quarantine, along those lines here, where you're not able to do especially team wise impact here. But I do think that like you, I do think there will be a little bit more rotation, and then you know but like you, this is a must win in my opinion. It was a must win when it was 2 weeks ago. It's a must win this Wednesday here. So,
I just gotta make sure we break out the pickle juice and the Pedialyte, and the IVs. And I don't know. Like I said, for Wednesday's game, will it be humid again? I know it's gonna be hot, but will it be humid as And it was quite humid on Saturday. I think that affected a lot. I guess not playing 20 games, it's really gonna affect you. This hopefully it's not as humid. It's more of a drier heat. That way the guys won't be cramping up, because we did see a lot of that towards the end. And then also, those hamstrings. That's there's a Gleedle right there, perfect example. Not playing, just not it's a little freak run that pulled his hammy a little bit. Hopefully, like I said, hopefully he'll be back pretty soon. So I think it's a good opportunity to put some of the bench players just to be on the safe side, because, like I said, Saturday is going to be a big game for us, that we do need to get another 3 points before we hit the road.
yeah, and so Saturday is predicted to be 96, 77. Says there's a stray shower, thunderstorm is possible. Winds from the southeast 5 to 10 miles an hour. Humidity at 61. At night, humidity is at 75%. So not the best, but not
If,
to me it's not gonna weather's
if
not
I'm
gonna.
if I'm San Antonio, this is what I would do. I'd wear the white jerseys for the next 2 games. We'll make them the other teams wear the dark jerseys. I know it's not our home jersey, but it kind of dawned on me. It's like, what? If we were wearing our white jerseys, it at least keep us kind of cool than wearing those, kind of keeping the dark heat. You know, uh,
Well,
you
no,
know.
they because the Real Monarchs game was a Viva night, so we've lost you.
Can you hear me?
Oh, no, I can hear you.
No.
The Real Monarchs game's a Viva night here.
Even I.
Um, yeah, so from my, or at least it was. I'm assuming that they're still going to keep the same promotions for it here. But other exciting news: FC Dallas is destroying Austin FC 4-1 at the half. So that's going to put a smile on a lot of faces that listen to this here for it here. Pittsburgh, like I said, this will be the first time that we play them. Lily Ball, in my opinion, a Hall of Fame. Not only USL Hall of Fame coach, but I think for U.S. soccer from what he's brought to the game and through here, they're a very disciplined club, for that here, but they do have some talent up top for that here with let's see, let me hold on before Russell Cicerone. He's got 13 goals. Dixon's got 7. Coronado Forbes, who's one that typically does very well, has got a goal. But to me, Cicerone, Dixon, and Williamson seems to be their top players here. But they are, in my opinion, defensively. However, last 5 they're 2-2-1, but last 2 is win. Away they're 7-3-2. So they do play away very well for that here. Now, I'm one personally where I think the East is a little bit stronger. Austin went up to there. Now, this was in June, and this is when Austin, had more of its depth. Did beat them 1-0, and Austin's a very defensive team here. So, and they have lost to Loudoun United 2-1 as well on the road. So they're a team that to me, they're a team that kind of mirrors San Antonio. They'll drop games that they shouldn't, and they'll win games that they shouldn't. Along those lines here, they will be playing the Red Bulls on September 1st at 5:00. We play Real Monarchs that same night. So both of us will most likely rotate the roster a little bit because both of those should be games that both teams should win. And then then they'll travel down to Toyota Field. So, any thoughts that you have on the Riverhounds coming to San Antonio?
I think what we need to do is take advantage, I guess, physical wise. Kind of use our speed and go after.
Scott, go to hell, man. Go FC Dallas. Come on. Hope you're doing well, Scott. Thanks for turning in, man. Like I said, we miss you.
I think Saturday's game. I think you made a good point, especially the weather. I don't think Pittsburgh's ever played in the Texas heat.
Nope.
And that, like I said, I think that them traveling all the way down here is going to be a factor. How do they react to the heat? For us, I think we do put our speed guys. We're here. We need to wear them out, and that way there's sucking air and this and that basically will leave things open for us. And even considering wearing white on Saturday. You let them wear the dark jerseys, just a kind of little psychological factor going in.
They'd probably wear their yellow, so I don't think you'd get that same aspect.
Thing. Yeah. So that's something that I think we're gonna look at game plan wise. But I think right away it's kind of like a similar matchup when we went against Birmingham. We really don't. If we jump on them, we jumped on them and we were able to keep that lead. Get a good win from them, and it's going to be a good test. If we can knock off Birmingham, sure we can knock off Pittsburgh. We just got to play the same intensity like we did against El Paso, and then hopefully, like I said, we don't get a, like I said, so that Wednesday is a trap game. I do worry about that.
Wednesday's a trap game. There is no question. There's no question about that here. And like I told, on Friday when I spoke with Royce here, I was like, I thought San Antonio would get at least 7 points out of here. He mentioned 5. Bad Royce, for it here. So but he thought that they would either lose or tie to El Paso, and then Royce, at that time thought Pittsburgh was going to give us some issues, and I'm sure if we had him on, he'd be like, hey, slow down for him. But I do think Pittsburgh is a quality team, so nothing against them, but I do think
But the same thing can be for Vicksburg. That Red Bulls game could be a trap game for them too.
Yes. But I do think that what's funny is Real Monarchs and New York Red Bulls are both historically have been quality teams, but this year they're not performing to their abilities, and like the Red Bull system's proven. How many players have they shipped off?
Mm-hmm.
Over to Europe that that they've got that pipeline for their hair. So, but I will try to see if I can reach out to Mongols to see if maybe we can set up something maybe for a Friday evening show again. To kind of go over the River Hounds a little bit more in depth. Keep in mind, it's a quick turnaround. We got Wednesday, we got Saturday, and then they turn around and play the Bold on away on the 7th. So, San Antonio in the next, from the 1st to the 7th, so a week, we'll have 3 matches. So, to me, I want, to me that the 2 lighter matches are the Real Monarchs and Austin Bold, and I don't mean that disrespect to them. I just don't think they're at the same level of the River Hounds. But I do think that will foresee a rotation in the roster for that here, and that's why Roy said, hey, they went out and got 7 center backs, so that way you can kind of have this setup here. So one other thing before I wanted to let you go for it here. CONCACAF qualifying starts out, I want to say this week, right? On the 2nd. Your thoughts on Mexico and the United States?
Well, I'm a little mad at the Italian Calcio not letting Chucky Lozano leave. I think FIFA needs to put their foot on some of the leagues, some of those European leagues' butt, and let those players come play.
Yeah, because Mexico's impacted on that, right? U.S. isn't as impacted, is my understanding, but I heard Mexico. This could possibly impact the qualifying.
Yeah, I think we still have quality players, going into, but still, if you're trying to bring like Chucky Lozano and Tecatito and now Raul Jimenez, he's made a comeback now. He's playing well, even though Wolves hasn't done well, but he's played good. This could impact that first game against Jamaica, but I think they'll be fine. I think they'll go ahead and get the win versus Jamaica. But honestly, FIFA needs to really, tell these leagues, hey, you gotta let these players come when they get selected for their national teams. Now, do they need to find a better system to kind of allow them to go? I think they need to explore that. There's got to be a way that some type of time frame. And I know the big thing is like, well, they're playing too many games. Well, you can kind of space things out, maybe.
Well, you can't because because COVID took away that time.
Remember this. We don't have the World Cup in the summertime.
Right, it goes to next winter, yeah.
Because you do have, for this time around, you do have some. You could extend out a little bit to give these guys some time. But I know the big thing, like with Champions League or domestic cups, it really throws, like I said, it does affect a lot of these teams. Not so much maybe the U.S., but some, like I said, they do have their European players too. So I think it affects a lot of those CONCACAF teams. And I think, CONCACAF really needs to kind of tell FIFA, hey, you need to get your ass, tell these Europeans to get their ass in gear and let our players come over here because it's part of qualifier. It's not a big issue there because of those European teams, and I can see also same thing with those South American players too.
Well, South America is the one that's really getting impacted from this, and this is my big issue with it. If you're going to have a red list of countries, how is the United States not on that list?
Yeah.
How is the UK not on that list? How are some of the other European countries on that list? That's my issue with the list that they have. And I know every country is different and they have different dynamics. But, you take some of the, like I heard, I forget which South American country that they had. If you actually look at their numbers, their numbers aren't bad. It's and bad in meaning that, especially when you're comparing them to the United States numbers, and that's, and I know United States is big, and without getting all political, a whole bunch of other stuff that goes into that discussion. But what Mexico, I think, is on the list, right? But yet the United States isn't, and yet. Let's be honest. I went to Cancun. How many of us go down to Mexico, and that causes the problem? Now, I also understand that hey, the clubs are paying millions and millions and millions of dollars for this here. So, but my biggest fear is if they do it this way here, saying hey, COVID for here. Previously, there's already been discussions of should clubs that pay millions and millions of dollars to these players have to give up the players because they're investing. And to be fair, they're investing. How much is Ronaldo, and Messi getting paid? More than you and I combined will probably ever see.
That's what cost Sergio Ramos his spot at Real Madrid because that injury when he got injured playing that for Spain, that pretty much derailed him getting another contract with Real Madrid, and now he's at PSG. I think the one factor you do mention, like I watched this weekend's Chelsea and Liverpool game, the stadiums were full of fans, but none of them were wearing masks.
Yeah,
like. And some of those guys play international ball. It's like, well, FIFA, there's a perfect example why, if there's teams are not being allowed to go play here and there because the club teams are not taking care of their own players.
Yeah, it's and like I said, it's a slippery slope, and there's no right or wrong answer on this.
See, and if you see like La Liga games, like you see on ESPN too,
ESPN Plus.
Have you noticed that they've actually limited their fans?
Yes.
So and I think they're being real proactive. They understand they want to protect their players. I think they have an understanding that hey, we do have to lend them out to their national teams, and we want to make sure we have a good working relationship with those federations. And not every league's the same, because of that. And I think that's where FIFA really needs to, I think, set a standard. Hey, this is how it's going to be. This is the way we're going to do it, and so forth. That way, everyone's safe. So when the player comes back, he's safe. He doesn't have COVID in this or whatever. We're going to take every single precaution, and I don't think FIFA's done that to ease anxiety to these clubs.
And my final question to you tonight before we get into final thoughts, the transfer market for this year. Oh, you're off.
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you. So my final question to you is the transfer market this year. I'm not a huge European soccer fan for that here, especially compared to you and Royce. For that here, but your thoughts on just the craziness, where Messi's changed teams, Ronaldo's changed teams, and Harry Kane didn't change teams of all things. Your kind of thought on what kind of stood out. Well, Mbappe,
it's not over yet. It's not.
He's
He
not
scored
over
2
yet,
goals today,
but he's coming though, right?
I think with the craziness over this week, I think Ronaldo kind of saw the signs there at Juventus. Juventus hasn't really invested in making that team strong. So he decided to go. Well, it was kind of funny. You know, they mentioned about him going to Man City. Some of the Manchester United fans were burning their old Ronaldo jerseys, only to end for him to end up coming to. So you kind of killed your own jersey there. Now is he gonna make a difference at Man U? He'll help him win some games, but I just don't think they're at the level where Man
He
City.
elevates them though. He
He'll
elevates
elevate
them.
them as a top four team, but as far as contending to the Premier League championship or even Champions League, I don't see that. Like I said, I think Man City and Chelsea are still the two favorites. Um, your dark horse is your Liverpool as far as Champions League because they've won it before. But like I said, it makes Manchester United the probably the fourth best team. They leapfrog over Tottenham now, even though Harry Kane's staying. Um, even but I still give. I think they had a little more firepower than Tottenham, so they'll be in the top four, and they end up sending Tottenham to the Europa League. Messi, like I said, I think he got the shock of his life now that the League One's no longer considered a top five league. I think it was right below the Portuguese league. So, but
I don't think League On is. It's
there's
PSG
only
and everybody else.
Well, they have Marseille, Monaco. Lille.
Well, I guess PSG didn't even win the league last year.
Yeah,
I guess
Lille won the championship. So, I mean, you have 4 or 5 good quality teams. Basically, it's like the Bundesliga, except for the Bundesliga, there's only one A, Team A, which is Bayern Munich, and then the B team, which is Dortmund, and then there's everybody else. But for him to go there, I think it may help him as far as kind of stay fresh, because you gotta think about it. At Barcelona, he never rested.
Mm-hmm.
He played all the games, all the domestic games, all the cup games, and Champions League, and I think that kind of tore him out. And I think being at PSG is going to allow him to really rest up and be fresh for a lot of those big Champions League games.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to be a benefit for him. I think even Ramos, I think Ramos it's going to benefit him, because you're going to need those guys to play some of those big Champions League games, going into this season, and they're not in an easy group either. So I think it's going to benefit them. Now, is PSG probably the favorite right now to win the Champions League? More likely, but that could change probably tomorrow or this week with Mbappe. I think more likely he is. I think he is going to go to the Real Madrid, and the reason why is, the contract situation. He's not going to sign another contract with PSG. So I think PSG's kind of realized, we better sell him to get something out of him.
Well, they're getting a whole lot from him, right?
Well, they're getting. I think they were given 160. They turned it down. More likely they're going to get 180. And for that, and now for him not to wanting to sign, Mbappe is actually now in control of this, because if you look at it this way, he can finish the season with them, and he can just walk away free, and PSG's out of doesn't get anything in return. So Real Madrid's kind of got some pull now. It says like, well, if you want to have something for him, you better sell him now, or not. We're going to get him for free next season. We can wait for him for a little bit, and by that time, Real Madrid is going to be free off their books with Bale and a couple other players. So I think PSG is going to probably pull the trigger this week, send them up to Real Madrid, and then that's going to put Real Madrid to be the La Liga favorite, and probably in the top 5 for the Champions League.
I just want to know if Man City is able to pull somebody in at the striker position, or if they're going to run with what they have. So that's the one that kind of interests me, because I think they've kind of been burned a couple of times here, with Ronaldo, with Harry Kane. I do think Kane wanted to go, but the owner of Tottenham, just wasn't going to allow it.
I think Kane fits their system more than Ronaldo.
Yeah.
I think Ronaldo's not a Pep Guardiola type of player.
And then Pep, I think, said that he's out
2023.
And then, maybe at that point he can come coach the U.S. Maybe. For
Mexico. He actually does have ties with Mexico because he did play in the Mexican National League.
He'll be able to pick wherever he wants to go. From my understanding, he wants to do national team for that. But, he can pretty much say, hey, I want to go to X, and I have a feeling they will say, yes, sir, for that here. So final thoughts for you, Rafa. Like I said, I appreciate you hopping on, like I said here, and, look forward to talking to you again here, hopefully a little bit more regularly as your schedule hopefully returns back to normal, for that here. But any final thoughts for you today?
I just want to say, take this time, I'm really going to open my heart to everybody here whoever's, watching tonight. It's been a rough 3 weeks, not a lot of, if people don't know, I lost my father about 3 weeks ago today. It was unexpected. I'm still kind of trying to process everything that's going, and the main thing for me, keeping, staying, I guess, keeping everything afloat for my mom and for my two brothers, and just being the strong one for them. And I truly appreciate all the prayers and the comments. Harry, I appreciate you and Royce, being there for me. Matt, I gotta appreciate Matt Gomez for keeping up on me and what's going on, and Scott, and I think Miho too, Coach Kano, even Coach Marcina. He sent me a message. I really truly appreciate that, and it means a lot. I'm still, like I said, my dad was pretty much, he was my world. He was one of my first soccer coaches, and he was kind of my inspiration to become a soccer coach, and it just motivated me to want to be better than him, and having him there support me when I first started coaching. I started off rec league, and then made my ways to high school, coaching my alma mater. Having them go to the games, it was great, and then when I came over here coaching club, he would brag. I guess I can say he bragged a lot to everybody in Del Rio's, like how good of a coach I was, and well, my son's the only one that's won in Del Rio, that won all, like I said, win a championship from all the major cities in Texas and stuff. So he would say that to a lot of his friends would at the funeral came up to me and told me that, and but like I said, on behalf of the Castorena and the Reese family, thank you guys for all your prayers, all the kind words. Just keep on praying for us. We just thank you guys. We can't thank you guys enough. And we're like I said, it's gonna take a lot of time for the heal, but I know he's looking down on us, watching over us. I know he's gonna continue on, and and I love them a lot, and he served his country too, and that's something I'm proud of. He's a Vietnam veteran, and like I said, it was like I said, it was a tough shoes to fill for him, going to the coaching stuff like that, and I'm just gonna miss having conversations with him, soccer wise, and just even life in general. He was my rock. So, but thank you guys. Love you guys, and I just couldn't go through this without you guys' support.
Thank you, Rafa. And having lost my dad, 14, 15 years ago, even to this day, there's days that, it's, you're like, hey, I wish I could just pick up the phone and say, hey, Dad, what do you think about this? Or, how should I handle this here? But, like I said here, my final thought, and like I said here, anything that you need, and this goes for anybody. If you need to, just, hey, pick up the phone and talk to, just to, express, whatever it is. I know Royce will take the call. I'll take the call. Scott will take the call. Matt will take the call. And anybody, most people that, you hang out with will take that call and listen, because that's the most important thing, is be able to listen and and just, kind of be there for each other. And that's what we need as a society is to be there a little bit more for each other. I know it seems like, hey, we're very divided for 50,000 different reasons, but we're really not. It's a lot closer than what people think. And then my final thought goes out to the family members that, of the U.S. military, 13 of them that unfortunately aren't coming home alive for that here. Being in the Navy myself, it's tough. Like I said here, leaving all politics aside, like I said here, if you see somebody, wearing a uniform, make sure that you give them thanks for that here. Thank you for them service, because it's not only them that goes through it, but it's them and the family, for especially the wives, children, are just as much part of the military as, the person that's serving. So, want to thank everybody that we are Military City for a reason. Thank everybody for tuning in tonight. Royce, we'll catch up with you maybe later on in the week for that here to see, maybe doing a River Hounds preview for that here. But what's life without goals? And I hope everybody has a wonderful evening. And